Greetings, Remnant Church and online friends. Welcome to the Midweek Refuel, where we seek out the ancient wisdom so that we will at least understand why the ship is sinking, and on a good day, perhaps how to patch it up. Actually, with the most recent Supreme Court decisions and a general air of exhaustion and weariness with the woke culture and everything related to it, things are actually beginning to look a little brighter. Universities are getting rid of their DEI staff, yay, and young men are getting fed up with the nanny culture that was imposed on them by modern feminism. I don't know if we have plugged the leak in the life raft, but I think we have at least slowed it down for a little while. Isn't that wonderful? But whether we right the ship or whether Jesus burst the sky wide open, either way, we are living in exciting times. As everyone was getting used to a culture and getting used to a government that was being fundamentally transformed out from under us, and using postmodern and critical techniques to do so. During that time, I had just graduated from university. My postgraduate degree required quite a bit of both theology and philosophy, which was fine. I really enjoyed those topics. I enjoyed it very much. But the cool, the hip philosophy of the time was called postmodern theology and postmodern philosophy. And as far as I know, it still is. As best I can tell, postmodernism owes much of its foundation to men like Wittgenstein, Derrida, and Foucault. These men gave the world and lesser men the tools that they needed to totally and completely undermine reality itself and impose on the world a subjective nightmare for us all. I do not believe that was the intention of postmodernism, and I do not believe it was the intention of the men that I mentioned, those philosophers. But in many ways, whether they meant it or not, it was the result. When studying the effects of postmodern thought, you will find that there was an erosion of meaning, and that the erosion of meaning is it's not the ultimate goal of deconstruction or Derrida's deconstruction or postmodern theology and philosophy, even though the name implies it. I mean, deconstruction, think about the word. Deconstruction is, according to online sources and online definitions, deconstruction is defined as a critical approach developed by French philosopher Jacques Derrida. It aims to uncover and challenge the assumptions, binaries, and inherent contradictions within text and concepts. Deconstruction seeks to show that meanings are not fixed or stable, but are always in a state of flux, influenced by the context and subject to multiple interpretations, unquote. What these men would have considered, or at least what I think they would have considered as fine shades of meaning, well, those fine shades of meaning have been abused to the point that we can't define what a woman is easily anymore. It's gotten pathetic. The deconstruction has become absurd. While their philosophies would indeed alert us to the fluidity, the multiplicity, and the instability within the meaning of words themselves, I don't mean to deny that they're there. What I mean to say is that less capable students of these gentlemen and of these philosophies have vulgarized and bastardized the tools of deconstruction for their own self-interested goal, just as Christianity has been vulgarized and bastardized in some areas of the world. Instead of narrowing the interpretive field, or fine-tuning, I think would be a better word, by disrobing the word from its social and political and cultural moorings, clothing, in order to find a broader interpretation, they instead use these same philosophies and these same philosophic tools to construct completely subjective realities that are unhooked from the transcendental and dislodged from the map of the objective as well. If you say that deconstruction's purpose is not to narrow the interpretive field, but rather to find varied and multiple interpretations, or in other words, to widen the interpretive field, then you are still growing or developing through abundance a richer and more meaningful grasp of the language that we use. Whether the scope is narrower or wider, however you want to describe fine-tuning, true deconstruction aims to help us communicate better, not worse. What I find disturbing about deconstruction is this: if I build a skyscraper and then get upset about the fact that some people question its foundation, it doesn't mean the foundation is inherently flawed, does it? Rather, the question could be a valuable part of understanding and reinforcing the structure and its foundation. However, if those people who question the foundation are doing so not to improve the foundation, but to tear it down entirely and replace it with some poorly constructive alternative, well, then we have a problem, don't we? In the context of deconstruction, the original intent was to examine and understand the complexities and multiple meanings within the texts and within the concepts. But when less capable or ideologically driven individuals, ideologically possessed individuals, they misuse these tools to completely dismantle established structures without providing a coherent or stable alternative or even describing why what they're deconstructing needs to be deconstructed. It leads to confusion and instability. Instead of fostering a richer and more meaningful understanding, this misuse of deconstruction and its tools can result in a fragmented reality where subjective interpretations reign unchecked, detached from any shared or objective truths. This not only undermines the purpose of deconstruction itself, but also hampers our ability to communicate effectively and constructively engage with differing perspectives. Deconstruction, when applied thoughtfully and carefully, should help us see the multiple layers and nuances in our beliefs and our ideas. It should challenge us to think more deeply and critically, not to abandon coherence and reason altogether. True deconstruction aims to broaden our interpretive horizons and enhance our understanding, rather than dismantling meaning and leaving us adrift in a sea of relativism. By misapplying these philosophical tools, we risk creating a cultural landscape where nothing is stable or reliable anymore, and where the pursuit of truth becomes an exercise in futility. This is why it is crucial to engage with deconstruction and other postmodern philosophies responsibly, ensuring that they serve us to enrich our discourse rather than degrade it. Augustine realizes that there is indeed a foundation. He can't, at this point in the book, identify it, this point in his thought, he can't identify it, he can't locate it in the mind, but he knows that it's there, just as we all do, lying somewhere between Augustine's reasoning faculties and Augustine's God lies a third entity, or as he calls it, a force. I like that. My Star Wars nature likes that. Or force through which the light of God and the spark of human reason co-create with Jesus Christ through the Word of God, thus emphasizing the incredible importance of think on these things. Listen to this amazing confession. Augustine says, quote, "Nor was it I that did all this, that is, the force that is in me, by which I did it. Nor were you that force, for you are the abiding light, which I consulted about all of them, whether they existed, what they were, what value should be attached to them," unquote. Augustine realizes that for any relationship at all, especially one with the Creator, we need an intermediary. All relationships are Trinitarian by nature. We need a word through which all other words receive their shape and receive their being. We need a word and we need a reason, a logos, which acts as the undeconstructible foundation on which to build everything else. Colossians says, quote, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." Quote, Acts says this, quote, "For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring," unquote. And the list of this kind of talk goes on and on and on. The clearest description we have is described in the opening lines of the spiritual gospel. And in that, St. John writes, quote, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made," unquote. What a powerful, powerful message. All religions hint at this intermediary. All deep thought in the spiritual realm has found this intermediary between. Some call it the third eye, others call it the eternal unfolding lotus. Christians, I think, would call it the image of God. Whatever it is, Christians believe in it as well. We do. We just think that it is horribly broken and disfigured. It needs to be repaired through faith in Jesus Christ. After it is repaired, then it must be used. And using takes practice, and using takes discipline. So become a disciple of Jesus Christ. Like from the movie Matrix, like Neo's eyes, when he is saved from his battery pod, he opens them and they tell him, "It's okay. Your eyes will be weak because you've never used them before." So with your repaired image. This broken image, when it is repaired, when it is working properly, presses and pushes onto us the pattern, the foundation, the word itself, through which our interpretive landscape finds its realization and its needed pattern to make sense of the world and to cling to sanity. You need a map to get from point A to point B. GPS, you need light to see both the map and light to see both the landscape through which you will travel. But neither the light nor the map will get you to your destination. There is a third thing that must take place. The Word must become flesh. This conduit, this force, this image is the pattern, and it is the lens through which we interpret our world, or through which we should interpret our world. God gave us the foundation for sanity. You have heard much about worldviews and how we ought to accept all worldviews. You have one, I have one, your neighbor has one, and Christians are supposed to have one, but Christians are supposed to have the one, not just one, the one, and Christians are to make Christ and his word that one, or that foundation. And when one inserts the key of Christ into the broken image that is within, that image begins to finally heal, and it begins to guide, and it begins to correct us, and it begins to lead us into all truth by allowing us to test the spirits. Knowing all of this, listen to these beautiful words, quote, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. This is how you can recognize the Spirit of God. Every spirit that acknowledges that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, but every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God." This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming and even now is already in the world." Unquote. When postmodernism says that there is no pattern through which we can all find commonality, Jesus Christ says, quote, "I am the way, and I am the truth, and I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me," unquote. In a world filled with diverse voices and conflicting ideologies, Jesus offers to us a clear and narrow path to truth and to unity through acknowledging Him as the Son of God who came in human flesh to reconcile us to God. His message transcends cultural trends and philosophical debates, providing a timeless and unifying truth that brings hope and salvation to all who believe. We are in the deep end of the theological pool now, and I hope you hung on. I hope that was enjoyable. Let's turn to the confessions themselves and hear it straight from Augustine himself. You can get your free copy from the Gutenberg Project. That link is down below in the description. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, and make sure that you sign up for our emails. That link and others can be found below, as I mentioned before. Let's turn now to Confessions, Book 10, chapters 39-41. In respect of this sort of testing, there is another evil within me. Too much within. Men make fools of themselves when they are pleased with themselves, though not pleasing or displeasing to others, or not seeking to please others. Being pleased with themselves, they are displeasing to you, not only because they are pleased with their bad qualities as if they were good ones, but also because they are pleased with the good qualities that come from you as if they were their own, or even because they are pleased with the good qualities that come from you as if they had earned them themselves. They might even acknowledge them to come from your grace, but not rejoice and share them, but begrudge them to others. In all these and other such perils and labors, you see how my heart trembles, and I perceive more clearly how quickly you heal my wounds than how you keep me from being wounded. When you have not walked with me, O truth, teaching me what I should avoid and what I should seek to gain, whenever I have referred to you my visions of lower things, so far as I was capable of seeing them, and sought your counsel, with my senses, I surveyed the world outside so far as I was capable and took thought for the life of my body in those same senses. Then I went back inside myself to the caverns of my memory, those vastnesses wondrously full of countless resources. I pondered and was afraid and could distinguish between none of them without you, nor did I find any of them to be you. Nor was it I who discovered all of the things that I surveyed and endeavored to value according to their true worth, receiving some things as messages from my senses and questioning them, perceiving other things to be compound of several elements, distinguishing and counting the various messenger senses, and having gathered them into the wealth of memory, handling some things, storing others away, and casting others out. Nor was it I that did all of this. That is the force that is in me by which I did it. Nor were you that force, for you are the abiding light which I consulted about all of them, whether they existed, what they were, what value should be attached to them. I listened as you taught and commanded me. This I often do. I find pleasure in it and take refuge in that pleasing during what release I can get from my necessary activities. In all the things that I go over when I go to you for counsel, I find no safe place for my soul except in you. There I can gather my scattered pieces, nor is any part of me lost from you. At times you take me inside and admit me to a state of mind far out of the ordinary, to some sensation of sweetness. If this sweetness is ever brought to perfection in me, I do not know what there will be that will not be comprised in that life. But then I fall away, weighed down by these burdens of cares, back to earthly things. I am sucked into everyday affairs and get stuck in them. I weep much, but am stuck fast. The burden of habit deserves no less. I would be with you, but have not the strength. I have the strength to be here, but would not. in both respects. I am miserable. I have therefore pondered my sicknesses that are my sins in respect of these three lusts. I have called on your right hand to save me. With my wounded heart, I have seen your radiance and could not fix my eyes on it, but said, who can do this? I have been cast off from the sight of your eyes. You are the truth that presides over all things, but I, in my greed, did not want to lose you, but wished to possess both you and falsehood, like one who wished to lie, but not so much that he did not himself know what truth was. In this way, I lost you, for you do not deign to let one possess you and falsehood together. I am working very hard to give to you a mystery. I hope you caught it. I hope you have sensed a little bit of that mystery and that grandeur in Augustine's writings. Augustine has gifted us with something absolutely beautiful today, and I hope you found it. Many times in our spiritual journeys, we wonder if what we are doing is right or wrong. Is it good or is it evil? Instead of doing that, Augustine goes straight for the jugular. He is definitely concerned with defining good and evil, no doubt. We've seen it over and over again in his writing, but he is not as concerned with defining good and evil as he is with defining God. Everyone knows that law enforcement agencies and law enforcement officers study the real dollar, the true dollar, the perfect dollar bill in order to find the fakes. By becoming familiar with the genuine article, all imposters become glaringly evident. Get to know God and God alone. Seek him first and his righteousness, and all these other things will be handed unto you. By knowing him, you will be able to discern spiritual truth and navigate through this life's strange complexities, and you'll be able to do it with clarity and purpose and adeptness. Augustine urges us to delve deep into the essence of God. For in God's light, the shadows of doubt and deception dissipate forever. Just as law enforcement officers study true dollar bills to detect counterfeits, Augustine encourages us to immerse ourselves in the authentic presence of God. Through this intimate relationship, we together gain the wisdom to distinguish between what is genuine and what is false in our spiritual journeys. Let us together embrace Augustine's profound insight and strive to know God more deeply, for in him lies the ultimate truth and fulfillment of our souls. Christ is King. Hail to the King.